Welcome to another program, dear viewers. Today we have a special guest by the name of Muya Katukula Muya, who is the International Labour Organization's project officer. Welcome to the program, Mr. Muya.
Oh, thank you very much. And it's beautiful and it's nice to be on the platform. And a good greetings to our viewers that are listening to us and watching us today.
All right. First of all, on a lighter note,
yes.
what is so secretive about your full names?
These names, I like saying all of them at once because they are my identity.
Mm-hmm.
They describe where I come from, my cultural background, and I just feel proud being a Zambian. Even if I go outside this continent, they can easily associate my names to being a true African, a jewel from Zambia, in particular from the western part of this country.
And do you use that to carry your message?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's part of the advocacy. It's part of the advocacy. It's part of the messaging. You know, if you are not proud of who you are, it means you have failed to accept the circumstances that surround you. So for me, my name's Muya Katukula Muya, proud Zambian, identified, and I'm sure you laugh with us, the listeners, to say, oh, there comes the man who eats the hopanis.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What is ILO's position on disability in the country?
Thank you very much. I may not say the position of the ILO, but I think I can make a comment on what we see as the United Nations in Zambia, including the ILO, on the work that we do together with the government of Zambia with regards to the rights and protecting the welfare, promoting the welfare, and championing the welfare of persons with disability. Not my word. Persons with the disabilities. Our viewers, I did not say the welfare of who? Disabled people, no. But persons with disabilities, these are human beings with the full rights. So for us as in the UN, from the ILO perspective, we are very proud of this country. Why? Because the legal framework, the policy framework for Zambia, it is very strong. Zambia is part of the global community in the international human rights instruments, such as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Zambia is a party to that treaty. Zambia has ratified that treaty. Zambia has gone further to domesticate that treaty. If we look at the policy framework, we have our National Disability Law, which is Persons with Disabilities Act, number 6 of 2012. We have the national policy recently launched by the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, the National Policy on Disability 2025, with its implementation framework, with the mainstreaming guidelines. I mean, which country would you want to be if all these frameworks are available, or championing, or promoting, or protecting the rights of persons with disabilities? We can only congratulate the government for putting up the systems and frameworks that make sure disability is promoted. And also, by the way, I need to also pay homage to Zanis for having a segment on disability and you. Which other broadcaster, whether private or public, Zanis is leading the way by dedicating a session to showcase matters affecting persons with abilities across the length and breadth of this country. So I think from the UN perspective, from the ILO perspective, we are very glad with the steps and progress that Zambia is making.
Do you mind giving us the genesis of the disability policy and the related statutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know, I like our African proverb, because one of our African proverbs says the child does not belong to you. A child is raised by you, by the whole village. And if we do not know where we are coming from, in terms of how this country has developed around the policies and legal frameworks on disability, we'll be very lost. Now remember, Zambia only gained independence in 1964. But issues to deal with disability began even far much earlier before 1964. What do we see from our legal framework? The earliest legal framework we are seeing is the Mental Disorders Act of 1949. Can you believe it? That is a period when we, even as Zambia was being looked at as Northern Rhodesia. 1949, we were able to see some of the earliest statutes around mental, by then it was Mental Disorders Act. But also, I want to bring you to the other, what we saw, the movement. Remember, the Second World War. The Second World War left a lot of victims with physical impairments. Then the word that was acceptable was handicapped. There were a lot of handicapped people in that time, because the terminology at that point was correct, not in the correct context. And our viewers follow this very important episode on disability issues and you, because you learn a lot. So we see the Northern Rhodesia League for the Blind. We are seeing them as early as 1951. The people that were first well organized in the disability movement are persons who are blind. So there was a league for them. And the Northern Rhodesia League, we also see one of the earliest statutes, which was known as the Blind Ordinance Act of 1951, which brought about the Northern Rhodesia League for people who had visual impairments, who were blind. But to come to 1964, Zambia gains independence. In 1968, we see a very interesting development, which now was known as the Handicapped Act of 1968. The Handicapped Act gave birth to Zambia Council for who? For the Handicapped, abbreviated as ZCH. So Zambia Council for the Handicapped, remember I talked about Second World War heroes who came back, some of them with the physical amputation, others around then the Northern Rhodesia had conditions such as leprosy. We also had a lot of landmine victims in the northwestern province because of the wars, the liberation struggles around Angola, Mozambique, and coming down to Zimbabwe. So Zambia had people who were suffering from physical disabilities as a result of landmines. So what do we see Zambia Council for the Handicapped to do? They brought about sheltered employment. It was not acceptable in that time what we see now, where families are letting people with disabilities on the streets asking for alms. In that time, Zambia Council for the Handicapped established farm centers. How many were there? 17, dotted across the country. Some of them were housing people with the similar types of impairments. Let me give you an example. Kangonga. Kangonga was a factory where people who were blind were making shoe brushes. Different types of brushes. They were doing weaving, basketry, making all types of chairs using rattan. And it was supported, by the way, by the Norwegian Association of the Disabled, the NAD, and NORAD, even the Norwegians, were putting in resources together with the government. I see when I go to Solwezi, there was a farm center there. You go to Kasempa, there was a leprosarium in Kasempa. Even to this day, there are some people with some residue leprosy. You go to Zambezi, there was another place, a farm center, which had people with the landmine victims that were being rehabilitated. What was the purpose of these centers under Zambia Council for the Handicapped? Provide rehabilitation. Why? Because it was a belief that a person with a physical injury or physical condition, whether it's mental, whether it's sensory, whether it's intellectual, they could be taken to these places, they'll be taught skills, they'll be given sheltered employment, and they'll not become a burden to society. Now, around the world, institutionalization of persons with disabilities was acceptable. So Zambia now, 1968, we move now to when? To 1996. We see a very different legal framework because it's no longer by 1996 acceptable to call a person with disabilities disabled or handicapped, mentally retarded. Please, our viewers, these words, I'm saying them for purposes of history. We don't use them today, and if you call someone that they are mentally retarded, they can actually take you to court. So 1996, the Handicapped Act of 1968, which gave birth to Zambia Council for the Handicapped, what do we see? It changes. That law is repealed because, remember, Zambia has 3 arms of the government. We have the legislature, we have the executive, we have the judiciary. So the legislature passed a new law, which was known as the Persons with Disabilities Act number 33, of which year? 1996. Zambia Council for the Handicapped, which was a creature of the 1968 Handicapped Act, changes the name. Becomes what? Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Remember, they are continuing with rehabilitation. They are continuing with the farm centers because it was still believed that if you take persons' abilities, you put them in communities, give them the skills, they will become better. So we see another change. In 2012, the whole world, the whole UN system said, no, it is not acceptable to institutionalize the persons with disabilities. It is not acceptable to call someone disabled, to call somebody mad, to call somebody an idiot or an imbecile. These terminologies were not acceptable. So the UN came up with a comprehensive international human rights instrument, which became known as the UNCRPD, the only international human instrument which was championed by persons with disabilities. Hence a very famous saying, our viewers, nothing about us without us. So persons with disabilities were at the center. And if you read the persons, the UNCRPD, what are you going to notice in that? It does not define disability. Because the viewers here, if they are listening to us and we say, our viewers, define disability. If we were to pause and they were to send us our answers, their answers, you'll be shocked. They will refer to disability as a medical condition, or no, if you are not able to do something compared to what is normal. The question will tell you, our viewers today, is what is normal? Who is a normal human being? I have not seen one. Zambia has Zambia Bureau of Standards. Is there a standard measure there where to say a human being should have this type of a head, this type of the eyes? Look at my head, is round. Look at yours, it's different. What does the CRPD say? Accept disability as part of human diversity. So Zambia has come a long way, and we see a lot of rapid changes from 2012. The government of Zambia passes the first national policy on disability of 2015. What do we see? We also see very comprehensive survey, the National Disability Survey of 2015. It will shock you. From 2015 survey, it estimated that the number of persons with disabilities in Zambia are about 7.7% of the population. Hey, what has changed? What has changed is how disability is now being defined. Because other pieces of legislation, you remember, Central Statistical Office has changed. It's now Zambia Statistical Agency. The percentage of persons with disabilities was always between 1 and 2%. Now, if you speak to disability advocate, we ask a question. What happened in 2015 to shoot from 2% to 7%? Are we saying a lot of people were born with disabilities? No. What really happened is that now the country had a different understanding of disability based on the UNCRPD, which says disability is an interaction of a person with the impairment, with the environment, and with the attitude. The Zambian law in 2012, after Zambia signed it in about 2008, we had to change our laws. Our laws had to change. Remember, our statutes had terms like the Mental Disorders Act of 1949. We had to change, Bwana. Why? Because in there, it was criminalized. And our viewers, if you are listening to us today, we want you baptized. If a person tells you to say, I'm seeing Jesus, what are you going to say? No, this one is very holy. Yeah? This one is becoming. But if a person tells you to say, no, there are people who are chasing me and they're after my life, and you look around, you can't see those people. What happens to say, no, this one is what? I don't want to repeat that word. This one in our advocates will say, this one has a mental illness. Now, what do you do to somebody who is not feeling well? If you have malaria, sir, what happens? Where do you go?
To the clinic.
You go to the clinic. But what is wrong with our Zambians that a person with a mental health illness, the very first thing you think of is you get ropes, tie them, take them to the police. If you are such a one and you are listening to us today, Zanis, on this platform, we are telling you to say, have a change of heart. If someone is not feeling well, take them to the nearest health practitioner. And many of them is just because it may be malaria. That has got the parasites are a lot and it becomes cerebral malaria. And immediately you give them medication at the hospital, they become okay. Some of them, they will not be fine, but if they are given medication, they become better and they are able to live. Okay. Why should the labels continue?
Right.
So I've given you a very interesting, we've run all the way pre-independence, the time of independence to where we are. This is how disability issues in our country currently are being looked at through the human rights lens and not through the charity or what we call this medical or social models. Is that a person with disability has rights.
All right.
What are these rights? Right to education, right to employment, right to having good healthy services. And I will say this, with the current law, if you have a child who has reached the age of going to school, according to the Education Act of 2011, which, by the way, in that act, it's 7 years. And that child is where? Being kept in the home. And if me, Mr. Mui, and my brother here, we come to know about you, we will report you to the police. It's a crime, Bwana.
Okay.
Yes.
So, having said that, how is ILO
Yes.
vis-a-vis UN
Yes.
playing in advocating the rights of persons with disabilities?
If you look, like I've said, sir, the same legal framework, the new policy that we have, the 2025 policy on persons with disabilities, the implementation matrix, the mainstreaming guidelines, all these are systems and frameworks putting together the government and the UN to develop them. Because you can't have a vacuum in terms of the legal framework. So the UN, especially the ILO, is working with the government of Zambia to do that one particular thing. So let me step a little bit back. We have developed support for Zambia agents for persons with disabilities to develop a communication strategy. And I want to challenge you, the media. I'm challenging you because on the 8th of March, I was not a very happy Zambian. In Mufurira, Copper Belt province, a woman was found at about 19 or in the 20 or so hours or in the early hours of the morning. She was found not to have clothes. And the community said she has fallen from where? From the skies. And she was beaten to death on assumption that she's a person practicing. But the truth of the matter is this. And I want you, our listeners, to listen to us, the specialists in this field, together with Zanis. Many people have mental health illnesses, and they will not be oriented to time or the place where they are at. If you have such a one within the household, please take them to the nearest health facilities. This government has built a number of health facilities. There are clinics. There are hospitals, there are specialist hospitals where you can seek support. And if you become a person who champions illegality, the full length of the law will visit you. So we have a communication strategy. The communication strategy on disability to bring about better behaviors amongst the citizens, to begin to embrace disability as part of our community. We also developed a disability management information system. Previously, a person with disability would have problems to become certified. But the UN, with the government, through ZAPID, we have built an MI system. Today, it's just at the click of a button. ZAPID can tell you how many people with disabilities are registered, what type of disability, what category, in which ward, in which constituency, in which province, in which district, and the national picture. So we've done quite a lot in making sure systems and frameworks are developed. But I think, myself, what I would probably say, one area where we need to go flat out is what Zanis is doing. Can we reach people in huge numbers? Let's use the electronic media, the radio, the TVs, like we are doing, to bring about an ally of people that will begin to see and begin to open opportunities for persons with disabilities.
Okay. Is there, under your efforts to address the needs of people living with disabilities, is there a component of socio-economic empowerment that you as an organization are issuing through ZAPID? So, and if so, how does anybody who is a person living with disability access those programs? So,
just for purposes of our viewers, let's not forget the language, the golden language. It's a person with disability. And what have we done with our legal framework, like I was making mention? It's mainstreaming.
Okay.
So what our viewers must listen is this. We don't want to create a word. The international legal framework does not want to create a place where persons with disabilities can only go and get services. Wherever services are being provided to the citizens of this country, mark my word, wherever services are being provided, socio-economic empowerment is being provided to citizens of this country, persons with disabilities are encouraged to go there. But what has the law done? The law, Article 5 of the CRPD, has brought about what we call de facto measures. De facto measures are specific measures put in place to accelerate the realization of the rights of persons with disabilities. Let me step backward a bit. The pass mark for a girl child and a boy child. What did we see? We saw that a boy child was doing excessively well. The girl child was not doing better compared to a boy child. What did we see? Government stakeholders lowered the pass mark for the girl child.
Yeah.
And what have we seen now? We have seen now that the girl child is doing far much better. So when we talk about socio-economic empowerment, we are talking about quotas. So the CDF, for instance, has or should have an allocation for persons with disabilities reserved for them.
Okay.
Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, for them, they're even doing it, even amongst their commissioners. There is one who is representing persons with disabilities. They have a special also allocation for persons with disabilities. However, we have the National Trust Fund for Persons with Disabilities, which is established under the Persons with Disabilities Act number 6 of 2012. It's meant to do that service. But the fund is quite small, and I think from UNDP and from ILO, we've tried to make sure we've supported them to, one, develop their institutional strategic plan, and also to build business strategies amongst the organization of persons with disabilities. So ours from the UN is, can we mainstream?
Right. What of the areas of education? How is ILO vis-a-vis PID playing in ensuring that access to education services, especially for
persons
with disabilities, is concerned?
Is concerned. Yes. Again, we are looking at the aspect of mainstreaming. Let's not forget that word. So with access to education, right now, the ILO and UNICEF, we are running a UN PRPD project. The UN PRPD project, what it has done, it is building capacity to organization of persons with disabilities to begin to demand for their own rights.
Right.
We are not showing them new rights or anything. We are simply reading the law to them and showing them what the law says about the rights of persons with disabilities. I'll give you an example. In it should be part 2, division 2 or division 1 of the Persons with Disabilities Act. It has very nice provisions. It says this, that a person or a learner with disabilities is entitled to an allowance to cover the extra cost associated with what? With learning. So what are we doing when we build capacity of organization of persons with disabilities and persons with disabilities themselves to know about the legal provision and the policy framework? Is they become their own voice, their own advocate. We have to stop to talk on behalf of persons with disabilities. They are an enough voice on themselves. We just build capacity and they'll begin to claim their rights.
Right. Lastly, but not the least, maybe you have any other issues that are of benefit to the viewers which has not been included in our discussion.
I'll go back to the issue of mental health illness. Please, our viewers, if you are listening to us, it is not acceptable that persons with mental health illness should be neglected, sir. It's cold right now. You and me are putting on warm clothing. But our friends are on the streets and the so-called Christians, you are bypassing them. You are taking your offering to the church, but there's somebody on the corner who is sleeping without clothes, who is eating from the bins. When the rains come, we don't even know what they sleep in or where they sleep. So for me, as an individual, as Muya Katukula Muya, can we be the spirit of Ubuntu? Let's begin to take care of persons with disabilities, especially those with mental health disabilities. Let's not criminalize them. They shouldn't go to the police, but let's take them to the nearest health facility. I want to thank you.
Well, dear viewers, that was Mr. Muya Katukula Muya, the ILO Program Officer. Until next time, it's goodbye for now.